I'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of this land, and pay my respects to the elders, both past and present. So Ferguson's Bibliography of Australia. Here he is. I'm guessing that's him and his collection. It's taken in the mid-60s. He dies in 1970. He's born in New Zealand in 1881. He moves to Sydney in 1894. His father's a Presbyterian minister. He gets a gig at St. Stephen's, which was then in Phillip Street here. Ferguson gets arts and law degrees from University of Sydney. From 1905 to 1951, he has a really significant legal career. From 36 to about 50, he's a judge on the Industrial Commission of New South Wales. So that's kind of stuff. In 1907, he marries Bessie Robinson, who's the daughter of George Robinson of Angus and Robinson. And this fosters his Ferguson's love of history, his love of books and publications. And it was to be a lifelong interest. In 1917, he publishes his first bibliographical work, which is a bibliography of the New Hebrides and a history of the Mission Press. And the first volume of what became his big life work was the Bibliography of Australia, and was published by Angus and Robinson in 1941, the first volume. And then the last volume, volume 7, was published in 1969, just a year before he died. So there are 7 volumes. There's the date ranges there. It's kind of in 2 parts. So there's volumes 1 to 4, which is arranged by year and then by alphabetically, and then the last 3 volumes are kind of cover the 1851 through to 1900, and they're arranged alphabetically. In terms of the scope, so in his introduction to volume 1, he writes the scope. He wants to include every publication relating in any way to Australia printed anywhere outside Australia, as well as every imprint made in Australia. Items which have no Australian reference and were not printed in Australia, though the authors resided in Australia either before or after the date of such publication, have not been given the status of Australiana by inclusion, unless they throw some light upon Australian affairs. So his aim was to basically list everything relating to Australia that was published outside Australia, but also list everything that was published in Australia. So this included books, pamphlets, broadsides, serials, newspapers, maps, charts, prints, unless issued as books, were excluded. And there were other exclusions. For example, he excludes material relating to Captain Cook, noting that at the time, there was a bibliography that the library here put out in the late 20s. In the 1850 to 1900 parts, there's quite a deal of considerable exclusion. So that's quite a different beast to the pre-1850 work. So the exclusions include literature, statutes, parliamentary papers, newspapers, journals, reports, and legal publications. So that's kind of the scope of the bibliography. There's also addenda. So addenda start from volume 2. So basically, he then adds the addenda where he finds new entries, finds new information, finds information about where copies are held, etc. And also in 1986, the National Library published the complete addenda for volumes 1 to 4. So kind of wrapped up all the addenda, all the known information for volumes 1 to 4, and published that. So here is an entry from the bibliography. So this is number 1. 1784, it's arranged alphabetically. So in the first 4 volumes, they're arranged by year, then alphabetically. The last 3 volumes are arranged alphabetically. Each entry has the title page written out, then has standard information regarding the size, the volumes, the pages, etc. There are some notes made that Ferguson makes there. And then there's also notes about where copies are held. So he cites the major public and private collections. So from Australia, he cites the Dixon collection, the Mitchell collection, the Public Library of New South Wales, the public libraries of South Australia, Victoria, etc., cites the National Library. He also cites his own collection of where he has copies, and a number of significant private collections are also cited. He assigns just single numbers. So this is 1, next number is 2, but then he does use suffixes so that when he comes if he's assigned single numbers and he finds another thing, then a suffix is applied. So if there was something between 1 and 2 that he finds and the order goes between 1 and 2, that would get 1A. And so that makes life a bit of fun as well. So that's how the entries worked. So in terms of the library's Ferguson project, it had its origins in the digitisation. So the library got money over 10 years called the Digital Excellence Program starting 2012, sometime there, and it's just now. And we wanted to digitise a lot of publications, like we wanted to digitise a lot of our collection, but within that we wanted to digitise a good amount of publications, and we wanted to use Ferguson as a kind of guide to inform our selection because we wanted to focus on Australian publications, focus upon New South Wales publications. And so that prompted the question of how do we actually know what we hold that is listed in Ferguson? Is there a simple report to find that out? And the simple answer is no, there's no simple report. You just can't go to the system that we have and say, give us everything that we hold that is cited in Ferguson. It's not there. Not everything has a Ferguson citation. Catalogue records generally now would list Ferguson and have a standard citation kind of thing and put it in the right field so everyone can search it. But that's just, it hasn't happened always. There's legacy data about how Ferguson's been referred to. The Ferguson reference may say it's a reference to Ferguson, may refer to a facsimile, may say it's similar to, et cetera, et cetera. So it's quite difficult to press a button and say, here's, our list of what we hold that's in Ferguson. So it wasn't a simple thing, no simple report. We kind of did digitisation, we focused upon New South Wales publications, but we never really got to getting a super duper report to inform us relating to Ferguson. So subsequently, I suppose I got interested in this and decided, okay, I'm going to try to work this out in terms of actually what do we hold and what are the Ferguson numbers. So basically, I interrogated the library's catalogue, our systems, etc., ran a number of reports, had lots of fun with data and parsing stuff, etc., and basically got to the outcome of having a list of the Ferguson numbers that were listed in our catalogue. And so kind of indicated that, yes, we hold those items. I got around 9,000 entries. So there's approximately, I think, around 20,000 entries in Ferguson. And so it wasn't definitive, like just the data made it really complex to actually get a really definitive list. So it was always going to be not definitive, it was always just going to be a start. And so what this list did, and you probably can't read that, but basically it's just a list of the Ferguson numbers that we basically starts to say, and I can't read it either. It says kind of we hold 1, we hold 2A, we hold 3A, we hold 4AA, we hold 4D, 5, 6, 8, 9, 7, 11, 12. So basically this was a list of the Ferguson entries and that was a big list listing 9,000 numbers. And from that we could say, okay, we hold these Ferguson numbers. And so that enabled us to go, okay, what we don't hold are the numbers that are not listed here. And by not hold, I mean that we don't actually have them cited in our catalogue that can easily be found. Of course, we could hold them, but they're just not cited as such, or I didn't find them in the report that I did. But so this was a start. And so what was required then was basically a lot of super duper work to basically go through that list before, identify where the gaps were, assign them, to say based upon that thing, we didn't hold number 4, for example, and say, okay, number 4 we don't hold, look at number 4, go to the National Library of Digitized, the Ferguson Bibliography, go to that online, have a look at number 4, kind of create a big spreadsheet listing number 4, what the author is, the title is, and then basically see, do we actually hold that item? And so with lockdown happening, so lockdown happens whenever it happens, however many years ago, there was a requirement that, to provide work to staff who generally work on site, who deal with materials, etc. And so staff from our information and access branch here basically had we decided this would be a good project to go through this big spreadsheet and identify and work through it and look at where the gaps are, what I termed the gaps of what we didn't have listed in our catalogue as belonging to Ferguson. And so this kind of enabled us, that lockdown enabled us we could commit a number of staff to do that and go through that. And so that here's an example of the spreadsheet. So spreadsheets are super. So Ferguson number 2 wasn't, we didn't have number 2 in the thing. We found out that we actually held it. The author and the title, we've just kind of, you know, that's a bit rough, but it's basically just a cut and paste from the Trove thing. We've then listed where it is on our catalogue, provided a link, and then we've said, the Ferguson reference isn't actually cited in our catalogue. And so that's why it didn't turn up into report. So we actually hold number 2. So 2 is there. And so that basically what the work that we've done over the last 3 years, information access branch staff have done, and it's been amazing, is to go through basically the first 5 volumes of Ferguson, identifying, you know, do we hold them? Don't we hold them? Have they been cited in the catalogue? So we got just some goals that we wanted to do. I suppose we're to identify holdings, to identify what we actually hold, identify titles for acquisitions. So that was kind of definitely one of the things I was interested in. If we don't hold it and it's listed in Ferguson, should we actually try to get it? Identify catalogue records requiring Ferguson citations. So we wanted to make sure that, okay, if it's actually, we hold an item, it's listed in Ferguson, that we have the proper citation. So that were the goals of the project. And so that kind of the exciting bits were kind of summaries that we could then provide and get about what we held for the particular volumes. So to kind of talk through this table here, pardon me, is that what this tells me, or what this is showing, is that these are our findings from volume. So volume 1, there's around 1,400 entries in Ferguson, and that's always an approximation. His single numbers go from 1 to 1409, but with the use of suffixes, there's always more numbers. There's going to be more entries than that. And what this shows is that we actually held 63 of the ones that weren't listed in the catalogue, or I couldn't find in my report, and they were actually cited. So that means the report, which I kind of knew wasn't, was imperfect. We held 193 of the titles, but they weren't cited. We held 3 of them, but we just needed to confirm what the citation, if it was in the standard form. 211 we didn't hold. So we looked, and this was all a desk working from home, looking at our catalogue, kind of matching the main points of the bibliographical data to say, yep, title, creator, etc. is all good. So we'll say we held it. So 211 we didn't hold. There was 81 that we assigned as kind of TB confirmed, which means that we needed to go and have a look at stacks and actually have a look at the item itself, because obviously there's lots of variant additions, etc., and it can be difficult from just looking at the catalogue record whether we held it or not. There was 858 that we presumed we held and cited, and so they were just the kind of the original numbers there that we knew that we held and we knew we had cited. So all that gives us the figure of that. I think we hold around 1,117 of the 1,400 items that are listed in Ferguson. So we hold around 80% of what's listed there. And so they were kind of the findings we got from that. And so they were really useful, I thought really useful findings, really illustrative about what we hold of Ferguson. And so we did that for volume 1. We then went and have done it for volume 2. And kind of just the highlight figures, I suppose, is that we found that we held, 294 of the ones that weren't listed there. We didn't hold 267. We needed to confirm about 127. But our overall holdings for what's in volume 2, we estimated around 70% at this point in time. We then looked at volume 3 and got similar numbers here. We think we overall hold around 73% of what's listed in volume 3. Is around 300 we don't hold, is around 107 that we just need to look on site and have a look at what the addition is and see if we actually do hold it or not. We've then looked at volume 4 and there are the numbers there, which are kind of similar, around overall holdings around 70% of the total entries in Ferguson for that volume. And then we've also looked at volume 5. We've just done volume 5 of the post-1850 volumes, and around 70% we hold of that volume. And so that's kind of the work that staff and information access have done over the last 3 years. Obviously, it's a big task to get through around 10,000 entries, look at all those. Do we hold it? Don't we hold it? Cite the, if we hold it, the catalogue record, etc. And just some overall kind of numbers, because numbers are cool and tables are cool, is that, you know, overall hold for that period of volumes 1 to 5 is around 72% of everything that's listed in Ferguson. And so just some observations on all those numbers. I suppose the high percentage of the first volume, so holding around 80% of what's listed in Ferguson volume 1. Volumes 2 to 5, the consistency of what we hold is around 70%. Volume 5 I found quite interesting because there's a lot more non-New South Wales Australian publications. We still hold around 70% of everything listed in Ferguson, and then the not held and to be confirmed ranges from 20 to 30%. The numbers we get there. And so in terms of what we're doing right now, obviously coming back to work has meant that the project has slowed. We're currently working on the desktop inspection of the 1986 addenda volume, so that will enable us, because we've looked at volumes 4, we'll look at that addenda volume, and the idea is to kind of get to a definitive kind of statement for all up to 1850 holdings. We're on-site checking of the to be confirmed items, so all those items that we decided we just couldn't held it or didn't hold it, we need to go and actually look at them, so that's happening. And also we're updating our Ferguson citations into the standard form. So in terms of what the outcomes have been, I mean, the greater knowledge of Ferguson holdings, so you can see there that we actually hadn't, a lot of what we held that is listed in Ferguson didn't have the right citation, didn't have a citation at all, so we're doing that. We're updating the citations. We're doing acquisition of items where we identify them. So for example, Ferguson 4, the universal consologist, we didn't hold that, was identified in this project, that's subsequently been acquired. We're identifying items that were overlooked when records were put into the electronic catalogue. For example, recently we found how printed material from 1817, 1819, which I think are quite unique, that weren't on our catalogue. They were listed on our reading cards, and so they're now being put into onto our catalogue. And I thought I should show a picture because pictures are okay. And so these are the rules and regulations established for the management of a male orphan institution. So that's George Howe from 1819. And then kind of we've we've actually created the catalogue record for that. And probably can't read it, but down the second from the bottom is the standard for the Ferguson. So Ferguson JA, Bibliography of Australia 760. So that's been done. And so the next steps are really doing on-site inspections of volumes 1 to 4. So obviously there's work, you know, that's quite a task to go through that and actually look at all the items. One of the things that Ferguson does is actually tell us where copies are held. So some of those TBC items are items where he would have said, you know, it's in the Mitchell, it's in the Dixon, it's in the Public Library of New South Wales, and we can't actually find it. So we want to make sure we find all that stuff. As I mentioned, we're working towards a definitive assessment of pre-1850 materials. So volumes 1 to 4 plus the 1986 addenda volume. We'll then do desktop inspections of volumes 6 and 7. So that will complete the run up until the 1851 to 1900 period. And we'll also identify as we go titles suitable for acquisition. This has never been kind of, it's been a project definitely that's with lockdown. We had the staff that, you know, the capacity to do this subsequently. It's never been kind of a main project. It's kind of just been a kind of project we've done when we've had time. So it's kind of a long-term thing. In terms of just a few other observations, I'm conscious with the gaps. So that going back to the start, I said, oh, we got this report listing all the numbers we held. Then to identify the gaps, we kind of just said, oh, well, if it went from 6 to 8, we don't hold 7. But if it was 6 and 7, we wouldn't actually know if there was a 6A or a 6B or a 6AA. And so there is work to go back and just do that stuff, which we haven't done. There's the question of how many entries there are in Ferguson with all those suffixes, and I have no idea, but I think that's kind of stuff to try to work out. And also of interest, I suppose, is the known copies. So Ferguson often puts entries in there where he reads articles, for example, in the Sydney Gazette, and the Sydney Gazette on this day has mentioned that there was this publication, no known copies exist. And so I suppose they're of interest because, you know, obviously they're not held anywhere at the time when Ferguson was compiling it. And it's just be interesting to work out exactly how many of those there are. And I suppose just the bigger picture, I suppose it has made me think about, because when I was looking, when we were doing the digitisation, trying to work out what to digitise, it was not straightforward to work out, oh, can you just do a report of all the Australian publications or the New South Wales publication? That wasn't an easy thing to do. And so I do think that it would be fun to have a resource that would make it easy to find Australian publications linked to digitised copies. I know that we've digitised a lot of material here of those publications. I know the NLA has done an amount of material as well. They've digitised some of the Ferguson collection. And I just think it'd be good and fun to have, you know, here's the first publication in Australia at this date as we go forward. And I suppose the transcription of text is just, we can do that too. So that's the end.